Hi, I'm Mina.
And I'm Yules.
Thanks for tuning in to Artificially Informed.
Okay, let's dive in. It really
Yeah.
feels like the world is moving at, well, just an incredible speed right now.
Dizzying is a good word for it, yeah.
You've got these massive breakthroughs happening in science labs almost daily, it seems.
Things that change our fundamental understanding of, well, everything.
And then, almost in the same breath, you see these huge shifts in global politics, in conflicts, in trade.
And the two are completely intertwined now, aren't they? The science feeds the technology changes the geopolitical landscape.
Exactly. It feels like the speed of discovery, especially in, say, digital tech or biotech, is just constantly running ahead of our ability to manage it. The governance, the regulations, the diplomacy.
That's absolutely the core tension. You have scientists unlocking nature's secrets, giving us tools that could, solve climate change or create quantum computers.
Immense potential for good.
Right. But then those same tools, those same advances are immediately finding their way into, well, military hardware, into strategic competition between nations, into really volatile global markets.
And navigating that space, that gap between the molecule and the military strategy, that's really what we want to try and unpack in this deep dive.
Yeah, that's the mission. We're trying to span from the incredibly small, like understanding photosynthesis, all the way up to these major global flashpoints.
Trying to pull out the facts that maybe get lost in the headlines, connect some dots across science, tech, and geopolitics.
We've gathered quite a stack of stories today that really paint this picture of complex acceleration. The idea is to give you, the listener, a bit of a shortcut to understanding what's really critical, what's driving change.
Not just skimming, but digging in a bit deeper. So where should we start? Maybe with the science.
Let's do it. Section 1, scientific breakthroughs and cosmic clues. And let's start really small, fundamentally small.
Photosynthesis. You can't get much more fundamental than that.
Exactly. It's basically the engine of life on Earth. And researchers from the Indian Institute of Science, that's IIC and Caltech in the US, they seem to have solved a really long-standing puzzle about how it even gets started.
What was the puzzle exactly? I mean, we know plants take sunlight and turn it into energy.
Right, but how? When that photon, that particle of light, hits a chlorophyll molecule, how does the energy travel so incredibly efficiently to the reaction center where the chemical conversion happens?
Without losing most of it.
Precisely. In almost any energy transfer system we design, you expect losses, right? Heat dissipation is a constant battle. Look at our best solar panels.
Okay. So nature has a trick up its sleeve.
It seems so. What these researchers found is that the energy doesn't just take a random walk. It's not bouncing around hoping to find the right spot.
It's directed.
Very specifically, it strictly follows one of two possible pathways. And what dictates which path it takes are these significant inherent energy barriers.
Energy barriers, like walls?
Kind of. Think of it more like a landscape, maybe a riverbed. There are two very deep, well-defined channels the energy can flow down easily. But all around those channels, the banks are really high. Those are the energy barriers. So the energy hits the system, and it's effectively forced or funneled into one of those two efficient pathways because jumping over the high banks is energetically really difficult.
So the barriers aren't blocking the desired path, they're blocking everything else.
Exactly. They prevent the energy from just scattering randomly as heat. It ensures the energy commits to a route that guarantees, or almost guarantees, optimal efficiency for conversion. It's about the physical structure, the quantum layout, almost.
Wow. That's elegant.
It is. And understanding that mechanism, that quantum choreography, as they put it, that's the breakthrough.
And the implications here are pretty huge, I imagine, beyond just understanding plants better.
Oh, absolutely. This is potentially massive for bioengineering and especially for tackling climate change.
How so? Artificial photosynthesis.
Precisely. If we can truly grasp the physics of how nature builds these efficient energy funnels, not just the chemicals involved, but the actual structure and energy landscape, maybe we can finally design artificial photosynthesis systems that get close to nature's efficiency.
Which would be a game changer for renewable energy.
Totally. Imagine scalable, cheap energy sources based on mimicking this process, maybe not needing rare earth minerals or complex, high-temperature manufacturing. It brings the problem back down to smart molecular design. It's potentially revolutionary.
Okay, that is a massive implication. Let's stick with fundamental concepts getting a shakeup. We're moving from biology to math and probability.
Yeah, and this one's pretty deep, Bayes' theorem. It's like the bedrock of statistical thinking for 250 years.
Right, I remember that from stats class. Vaguely. It's
Yeah.
about updating your beliefs based on new evidence.
Exactly. It's the rational way to do it. You see it everywhere. Medical diagnosis, spam filters, AI prediction models, financial modeling. It's baked into so much.
So what's the issue? Why does it need a quantum makeover?
Well, the issue is the quantum world itself. It just operates differently. Probabilities are inherently fuzzy. States exist in superposition, multiple possibilities at once until you measure them.
Okay.
So if you try to apply the classic Bayes rule to update your knowledge about a quantum system based on some new quantum measurement, the classical update process can actually be too aggressive. It can kind of collapse or destroy the delicate quantum state you're trying to understand. It over-updates.
It breaks the quantumness of it.
In a way, yes. So this new quantum formulation, it's built around a different idea. The principle of minimum change.
Minimum change, what does that mean in practice?
It means when you get new information, new evidence from a quantum measurement, you should adjust your belief mathematically, the quantum state representing your knowledge, only just enough to be consistent with that new evidence.
Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Kind of, yeah. Preserve as much of the original quantum information and coherence as possible. The goal isn't just recalculating a probability, it's preserving the state while incorporating the new fact with minimal disruption.
That sounds tricky. How do they actually achieve that mathematically?
Right, this is where it gets technical. They connect this principle to concepts like quantum fidelity, how similar two quantum states are, and crucially, a mathematical tool called the PETS map.
PETS map. Never heard of it.
It's from quantum information theory. The key thing about the PETS map is that it's known as the least disruptive way to sort of reverse or condition a quantum process. So using it here helps ensure that incorporating the new evidence causes the absolute minimum disturbance to the overall quantum state.
Okay, wow. So this isn't just tweaking the old formula. It's a fundamentally different approach rooted in quantum information theory itself.
Exactly. It's about respecting the quantum nature of the information from the ground up.
And the applications. Where does this new quantum Bayes rule make a difference?
The big ones are, unsurprisingly, quantum computing and advanced AI.
How so for AI?
Well, imagine an AI trying to learn from or model data that has inherent quantum properties, or even just dealing with massive data sets filled with uncertainty. A probabilistic model based on this minimum change principle could lead to more robust, more accurate predictions. It handles uncertainty in a more quantum native way.
And for quantum computers?
Error correction is a huge challenge in quantum computing because measurements can disturb the calculation. A better way to update the system's state based on error checks using this minimum change idea could be really vital for building stable, reliable quantum machines.
Fascinating. It bridges classical probability with quantum reality. Okay, let's zoom out now from the quantum to the cosmic. We've got news about moon rocks.
Yeah, literal time capsules. Scientists are finally opening up some untouched lunar samples that were brought back by the Apollo 17 mission.
Apollo 17, that was the last one, right? Back in 1972.
That's the one. These samples have been kept sealed, perfectly preserved, for over 50 years, just waiting.
Waiting for what? Better technology.
Exactly, waiting for analytical tools sensitive enough to unlock the secrets they hold. It's an incredible example of scientific foresight and patience.
So what's the big question they're trying to answer with these 50-year-old rocks?
It's about the moon's origin story. The big goal is to measure and compare the isotopic ratio of a specific element, sulfur, specifically sulfur-33 in these lunar samples, versus samples from Earth.
Sulfur-33. Why is that particular isotope so important?
It ties directly into the leading theory of how the moon formed the giant impact hypothesis.
Right, the idea that a Mars-sized object, sometimes called Theia, smashed into the early Earth.
Precisely. The theory suggests the moon coalesced from the debris thrown out by that colossal impact. If that's true, a large chunk of the moon's material should have originated from Earth's mantle.
So the chemical fingerprint, including isotopes like sulfur-33, should be very similar between the moon rocks and Earth rocks.
That's the prediction. If the sulfur-33 ratios match closely, it's strong evidence supporting the giant impact theory that the moon is essentially made of bits of early Earth mixed with bits of Theia.
And if they don't match?
Well, that would throw a wrench in the works. It might mean the impactor, Theia, was chemically very different than we thought. Or perhaps the mixing wasn't as thorough. Or maybe the whole formation process was more complex.
So these old rocks, analyzed with brand new tech, could rewrite planetary science textbooks.
Potentially, yes. It's using physical evidence from the past combined with the absolute cutting edge of modern measurement to answer fundamental questions about our solar system's history.
Incredible. And while we're looking up a couple of other quick space items.
Yeah, for the stargazers out there, keep an eye out for the peak of the Orionid meteor shower.
That's debris from Halley's Comet, isn't it?
It is. And the good news, according to the sources, is that the moon will be out of the way, so viewing conditions should be pretty good this year, assuming clear skies. A nice chance to see some cosmic dust burn up.
Always a treat. And something a bit more exotic.
Dark matter.
Yes, reports of the discovery of what might be the smallest clump or halo of pure dark matter ever detected.
Smallest clump. Why is finding a small clump significant?
It helps test our models of what dark matter actually is, specifically the cold dark matter model, which is the leading theory. This model predicts that dark matter should clump together gravitationally on all scales, from huge galactic halos down to much smaller structures.
So finding a really small clump fits the prediction.
Exactly. It helps constrain the properties of dark matter particles, like their mass and how they interact. Dark matter makes up most of the matter in the universe. It's the invisible scaffolding that galaxies form on, so finding these small structures helps refine our understanding of this huge cosmic mystery. Even though we can't see it directly, we can map its gravitational effects.
Getting closer to understanding the unseen universe. Okay, that feels like a good pivot point. Let's bring our focus back down to Earth, and specifically to how technology is impacting defense and regulation. Section 2. Right, and the pace here is just as blistering as in fundamental science. We're seeing Silicon Valley innovation getting deeply integrated into military applications.
And the prime example in our sources today is this new Eagle Eye helmet from Endural Industries.
Yeah, Endural is Palmer Luckey's company.
Palmer Luckey, the guy who originally founded Oculus VR, the virtual reality headset company Facebook bought.
The very same. He's now focused squarely on defense technology. And this Eagle Eye helmet, it's described as a mixed reality, or a MR system.
Mixed reality, so blending the real world with digital information.
Exactly. It's not just a display. It's designed to turn soldiers into what they call AI-augmented warfighters.
AI augmented. What does that actually mean on the battlefield?
It means the helmet integrates multiple things.
Yeah.
Augmented vision overlays, like seeing target information or friendly positions directly in your view, but also real-time data processing from all kinds of sources. Drones, sensors on the ground, intelligence feeds.
Okay, so enhanced situational awareness.
Massively enhanced. But the key feature they're highlighting is its predictive analytics capability.
Predictive. How does a helmet predict things in combat?
The onboard AI is constantly crunching data. It's analyzing terrain, known enemy positions, the speed and trajectory of objects. It can apparently do things like calculate optimal firing solutions instantly, track multiple targets even if they go behind cover briefly, or even project the likely path an enemy soldier might take to reach cover.
Giving the soldier a few seconds of warning, potentially.
Exactly. Seconds that could make all the difference. It's processing information and running predictive models at a speed no human brain could match in that kind of high-stress environment.
It sounds like a fundamental shift in the soldier's capabilities.
It really is. And it's interesting, as you noted, that it comes from Palmer Luckey, bringing that consumer VRR rapid development mindset into the traditionally slower defense industry.
And the sources also mentioned a collaboration with Meta, formerly Facebook.
Yeah, that link is significant too. It highlights this growing trend of major commercial tech companies in Silicon Valley actively pursuing and winning large defense contracts. The lines are blurring.
Innovation pipelines flowing directly from consumer tech to military applications. That's a major theme. Okay, let's shift from military AI to the commercial side. The enterprise AI race seems to be heating up intensely.
Oh, absolutely. Every major tech player wants a piece of the action in automating business processes. Salesforce, the big name in CRM, customer relationship management, just announced something called Agentforce 360.
Agentforce 360, what's the goal there? Better customer service bots.
It's more ambitious than just a chatbot. The idea is to use generative AI agents to automate much more complex customer interactions and service tasks.
Like what, for example?
Think beyond just answering basic questions. These agents are designed to handle multi-step processes autonomously, maybe managing a sales lead through several stages, or resolving a complex technical support issue without needing a human to step in constantly.
So reducing the need for human customer service reps or salespeople.
That's certainly part of the push, aiming for more efficiency and cost savings for businesses. It puts Salesforce squarely in competition with Microsoft, which is pushing its Copilot AI across all its business software, and ServiceNow, another big player in workflow automation.
It's a full-on arms race for enterprise AI dominance.
It really is. They're all racing to offer the most capable, most integrated AI solutions to businesses trying to streamline everything post-pandemic.
Now, when you have AI becoming this powerful and integrated, both on the battlefield and in dealing with customers, the question of regulation becomes unavoidable, doesn't it?
Immediately. And we're seeing the first major steps on that front in the U.S., specifically coming out of California.
What's happening there?
California just passed Senate Bill 243, SB 243, and it makes California the first U.S. state to specifically regulate AI companion chatbots.
Companion chatbots, like Replica and others that people form relationships with?
Exactly those. These bots have exploded in popularity, designed to provide emotional support, conversation, sometimes even simulated romantic relationships.
And the concern is?
The concern, especially highlighted in the push for SB 243, is the potential impact on vulnerable users, particularly children and teenagers.
What kind of impact? Privacy? Emotional manipulation?
Both. Firstly, privacy. What happens to all the incredibly personal, intimate data shared with these AI companions? Where does it go? How is it used? And secondly, emotional harm. These AIs are designed to build bonds. There are serious worries about the potential for unhealthy dependence, manipulation, or even the AI exacerbating existing mental health problems, especially in younger users who might not have fully developed critical thinking skills about these interactions.
So what does SB 243 actually do?
It mandates clear safety protocols for developers. They need to be transparent about the AI nature, implement safeguards against harmful interactions, and potentially face accountability if their chatbots cause demonstrable harm due to negligence or unethical design. It's trying to establish a baseline of responsibility.
Setting guardrails for this new kind of human-AI relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because it's California, it's likely to set a precedent for other states and potentially even federal action down the line. It's a really critical first step in grappling with the social implications of increasingly sophisticated AI.
That tension, again, the rapid tech advance versus the slower but necessary legislative and ethical response. Okay, let's take that theme of tension and fragility and shift to the geopolitical stage. Section 3. Geopolitical flashpoints and fragile peace.
And we have to start with the situation in the Middle East, specifically the Gaza ceasefire deal.
Right. This was presented as a major diplomatic achievement. We saw President Trump making that statement, "The long and painful nightmare is over," reported as he flew to the summit in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt.
Yeah, very prominent messaging. And then he addressed the Israeli Knesset, crediting his administration and also Egyptian President el-Sisi for brokering the agreement. It was framed as a huge foreign policy win.
And the core components were significant. The release of all 20 living Israeli hostages held by Hamas.
Plus the remains of others who had died. And in return, Israel released around 1,700 Palestinian detainees from its prisons.
And crucially, agreements for more humanitarian aid to enter Gaza.
Yes, that was a key part. And you certainly saw the impact of the hostage and detainee releases huge relief, emotional scenes reported from families in Israel, but also gatherings and celebrations in places like Khan Yunis in Gaza and across the West Bank as detainees returned.
A moment of genuine hope, perhaps.
For a moment, yes. But the critical point, and our sources are really clear on this, is that the diplomatic success, the signing of the deal, has not translated into real peace or stability on the ground. The situation remains incredibly fragile.
Oh, so what's undermining it?
Almost immediately after the ceasefire took effect, there were reports of renewed violence within Gaza itself.
Not between Hamas and Israel, but internal fighting.
Exactly. Specifically, armed clashes broke out between Hamas forces and members of the Dogmush clan, which is a large, powerful, and well-armed family group in Gaza. There were casualties reported.
What does that signify?
It shows that even with an external ceasefire, the internal power dynamics and potential rivalries within Gaza are still volatile. Hamas doesn't have absolute, unchallenged control, and these tensions can erupt.
And there was more. Hamas deploying its own forces.
Yes. Sources reported seeing Hamas deploying armed fighters, including police units, across parts of Gaza, explicitly targeting individuals they accused of being collaborators or traitors.
An internal crackdown.
A very public and aggressive one. And this runs completely counter to the spirit, and indeed the letter, of the longer-term visions supposedly underpinning the ceasefire deal.
Which involves?
Well, the internationally backed plan, vague as it might be, envisions Gaza eventually being governed by some entity other than Hamas, and crucially, includes the disarmament of Hamas as a military force.
But Hamas strengthening its internal security suggests they have no intention of disarming or giving up control.
It certainly appears that way. Consolidating power internally seems to be their priority, directly contradicting the disarmament goal. So the long-term prospects for this ceasefire actually leading to a stable, lasting peace. They look incredibly uncertain right now. The gap between the diplomatic rhetoric and the ground reality is vast.
A very precarious situation. Okay, let's move from that fragile truce to another conflict zone facing absolute horrific humanitarian crisis, Sudan.
Yeah, this is a situation that often doesn't get enough sustained attention, but the suffering is immense. We need to talk about a specific tragic incident in El Fasher, which is the capital of North Darfur state.
What happened there?
An attack on the Dar al-Arqam displacement center. This was a place sheltering people, families who had already fled violence elsewhere, and the attack is being attributed to the Rapid Support Forces, the RSF.
The RSF, one of the main factions in Sudan's civil war. And the details of this attack are just devastating.
They really are. Reports confirmed by UNICEF, the UN Children's Fund, state that at least 17 children were killed in this attack. 17 children. Including, unbelievably, a 7-day-old baby. Just an infant. Another 21 children were confirmed injured. It's just sickening.
And this happened in El Fasher, which has been under siege for a long time.
For over 500 days, according to the reports, the RSF has laid siege to the city, largely cutting it off.
500 days. The conditions must be unimaginable.
Catastrophic. The siege means severe shortages of everything: food, clean water, medicine, fuel. Aid agencies have struggled to get access. We're seeing reports of catastrophic levels of child malnutrition, people dying from preventable diseases because there's no health care.
So this attack on a displacement center, full of vulnerable children, comes on top of this backdrop of siege and starvation.
Exactly. It's not just a horrific incident in isolation. It's part of a pattern of violence and deprivation that constitutes a massive violation of international humanitarian law. It's a stark reminder of the brutal reality faced by civilians, especially children, caught in this conflict.
A truly desperate situation demanding more global attention and action. Okay, let's shift focus again, this time to economic tensions, specifically the ongoing trade friction between the U.S. and China.
Right. This isn't kinetic warfare, but it's definitely a form of strategic conflict playing out economically. And it seems to be escalating again, moving beyond just tariffs on consumer goods.
What's the latest flashpoint?
Rare earth elements. China has imposed new restrictions, new curbs on the export of certain rare earth materials.
And the U.S. response?
The U.S. trade envoy, Jamieson Greer, publicly labeled this move by China a power grab.
Okay, let's back up slightly. Remind us why rare earths are so important, why this is such a big deal.
Sure. Rare earth elements, or REs, aren't actually always that rare in the ground, but they're difficult and environmentally costly to mine and process. There are 17 of them, chemically similar elements like neodymium, dysprosium, yttrium.
And they're used in?
All sorts of high-tech applications. Neodymium is crucial for the powerful lightweight magnets used in electric vehicle motors, wind turbines, hard drives, even things like the actuators in advanced missile systems like those on the F-35 fighter jet. Dysprosium is vital for laser guidance, high-performance alloys. They are absolutely essential for modern electronics, green technology, and defense manufacturing.
And China's role?
China dominates the global supply chain, particularly the processing and refinement stage. They control a huge percentage of the world's capacity to turn the raw ores into usable rare earth metals and alloys.
So by curbing exports, they're flexing that muscle.
Exactly. It's using their dominance in this critical resource sector as leverage in the broader trade dispute, a geopolitical weapon disguised as a trade measure.
So how did the U.S. react to this power grab accusation? Did they retaliate?
The rhetoric certainly escalated. The U.S. threatened a massive countermeasure, imposing a 100% tariff on all Chinese imports.
100%. That's basically shutting down trade.
In an enormous threat, yes. And China, predictably, didn't take it lying down. They announced their own retaliatory measures, specifically targeting U.S. ships docking at Chinese ports with new charges.
And publicly accusing the U.S. of resorting to the law of the jungle.
Right. The diplomatic language got very sharp very quickly on both sides.
Now, this is where it gets interesting, looking at how the financial markets reacted, because it really shows that disconnect we talked about earlier.
It really does. When the news of the potential 100% U.S. tariff threat broke, what happened to stock futures?
They plunged, right, predictably. Markets hate that kind of uncertainty and the prospect of a full-blown trade war.
Exactly. Analysts started pricing in massive economic disruption, but then what happened next?
Almost immediately, they bounced back. The Dow Jones Index jumped, 300 to 600 points?
Yeah, a sharp rebound. And what triggered the rebound? Was it China backing down? Or the U.S. withdrawing the threat?
No, it was apparently just a comment from President Trump, assuring everyone that the situation will all be fine.
A single, relatively vague, optimistic statement.
Yeah, it's kind of astonishing, isn't it?
Yeah.
The market seemingly ignored the concrete threat of a 100% tariff, the actual policy action being considered, and instead rallied based on political rhetoric.
It tells you a lot about the current market psychology. Investors are absolutely desperate for any signal of stability or de-escalation, however flimsy it might seem.
So sentiment over substance.
To a large degree, yes, in the short term. The underlying issues, the rare earth restrictions, the tariff threat, they haven't actually gone away. The fundamental risks are still there, but the perception of risk was momentarily calmed by that assurance. It highlights just how much volatility is now driven not just by economic data, but by tweets, speeches, and political signaling.
Keeping track is almost whiplash-inducing. Okay, let's shift from the heat of trade disputes to a different kind of heat to the planets. Section 4. Climate vulnerabilities and resilient communities.
And we have to start with a pretty sobering warning from the scientific community.
What's this?
A report from, I think it was 160 scientists, basically saying that global warming isn't just approaching dangerous thresholds or tipping points, it's actively crossing them, and sooner than many models had predicted.
Crossing them now. What specific examples do they give?
The most prominent one they cite is the collapse of coral reef ecosystems around the world. They're saying this isn't a future risk anymore, it's an observed reality happening now.
Coral reefs. They're beautiful, but why are they considered such a critical tipping point indicator?
Because they are incredibly sensitive to temperature changes and ocean acidification, both driven by excess CO2. But more than that, they are foundational ecosystems, meaning they support a huge amount of other life. Something like 25% of all marine biodiversity depends on coral reefs at some point in their life cycle. They're nurseries for fish stocks, they protect coastlines from storm surges, they are massive ecological engines.
So their collapse isn't just losing pretty corals, it's a sign of systemic failure in ocean health, with knock-on effects for fisheries, coastal communities.
Exactly. When scientists talk about crossing a tipping point, they mean entering a phase where changes become potentially irreversible and self-reinforcing, even if we stopped emissions tomorrow. The system tips into a new, often degraded state. We're moving from prevention to forced, rapid adaptation, often without fully understanding the consequences.
That's a grim picture. And speaking of adaptation, there's an interesting contrast highlighted in our sources from Pakistan, dealing with a specific climate threat there.
Yes, glacial lake outburst floods, or GLOF.
GLOFs, what are those exactly?
Pakistan has vast mountainous regions with many glaciers. As glaciers melt due to warming, meltwater can pool up behind natural dams, often made of ice or moraine, loose rock, and sediment left by the glacier. These dams can be unstable.
Right.
A GLOF happens when that natural dam suddenly fails. It releases a huge, devastating torrent of water, ice, mud, and boulders down the valley, often with very little warning. It's a major hazard in high mountain regions globally, and Pakistan is particularly vulnerable.
So presumably they're trying to set up warning systems?
They are. The government has invested apparently quite significantly in modern early warning systems, EWS, using sensors, monitoring stations, automated alarms, etc.
High-tech solutions.
Right.
But the story here is that they didn't work as well as expected.
That's the fascinating contrast. The sources highlight the experience in one region, Gezer, and specifically a local shepherd named Wasiat Khan.
What did he do?
When a GLOF event occurred, he and his community relied on traditional indigenous knowledge to get warning. They observed subtle signs, changes in animal behavior that seemed unusual, specific shifts in the river's color or flow patterns, reading the local weather signs in a way passed down through generations.
And they acted on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Using their local communication networks, basically, getting the word out quickly, person to person within the village, they were able to evacuate and avoid the worst of the flood's impact.
While the official high-tech system.
According to the reports, the modern EWS in that area suffered from multiple problems. Equipment malfunctioned, maintenance was poor, and crucially, there was a lack of trust from the community.
Why the lack of trust?
possibly due to past false alarms, or maybe the system wasn't well explained or integrated into local decision-making. If people don't believe the fancy alarm when it goes off, or if it's broken anyway, the expensive technology is effectively useless in the critical moment.
So local low-tech wisdom proved more resilient than the modern, potentially unreliable system.
In this instance, yes. It's a powerful reminder that climate adaptation isn't just about installing hardware. It has to involve the community, build trust, and ideally integrate local knowledge and traditional practices, which are often deeply attuned to subtle environmental changes. Technology needs the human element to be effective.
A really important lesson there. Now, staying with resources and environmental pressures, there's also scrutiny on green lithium extraction.
Yes, specifically in the so-called lithium triangle, that region covering parts of Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile in South America, which holds a huge portion of the world's lithium reserves.
Lithium, obviously critical for batteries, electric vehicles, the energy transition.
Absolutely. The demand is skyrocketing, and mining companies are pushing new methods, particularly something called direct lithium extraction, or DLE.
DLE. What's the claim there?
Yeah.
It's better for the environment.
That's the pitch. Traditional methods often involve pumping vast amounts of lithium-rich brine into huge evaporation ponds, letting the sun evaporate the water over months to concentrate the lithium. DLE technologies aim to extract the lithium directly from the brine using filters or membranes much faster, and theoretically using less land and losing less water to evaporation.
Sounds good on paper. What's the catch?
The catch, according to environmental groups and significantly local indigenous communities in these areas, is the water usage.
Even with DLE.
Yes. While it might lose less water to evaporation than the giant ponds, DLE processes themselves can still require very large amounts of fresh water to operate. And these lithium deposits are often found in extremely arid regions, like the Atacama Salt Flat in Chile, one of the driest places on Earth.
So you're potentially sucking up precious freshwater resources that local ecosystems and communities depend on.
That's the core concern. These communities are already reporting impacts from existing mining wetlands shrinking, rivers drying up, ground subsidence potentially linked to brine extraction. They argue that scaling up extraction, even with supposedly greener DLE, could be devastating if it relies on scarce freshwater.
So the green transition powered by lithium might not be so green for the places where the lithium comes from.
That's the dilemma. Analysts and activists are calling for much stronger regulations and independent environmental assessments before these new DLE projects get approved on a massive scale. True sustainability means looking at the whole picture, including local water impacts, not just the carbon footprint of the final product.
Another layer of complexity in the shift to renewables. Okay, we've covered a huge amount of ground today. From the deepest secrets of photosynthesis to the complexities of geopolitics and climate adaptation.
It really spans the spectrum, doesn't it?
Let's try and maybe pull some threads together as we wrap up. What's the main takeaway from this whirlwind tour?
For me, the recurring theme is this constant grappling with unprecedented complexity and risk. On one hand, you have these genuinely profound scientific leaps understanding photosynthesis energy flow, reformulating probability for the quantum world. Real foundational progress.
Knowledge expanding.
But then, almost instantly, you see the outputs of science and technology creating new complexities and risks elsewhere. The eagle-eye helmet integrates AI into warfare in ways we're still figuring out the implications of.
Right, raising questions about automated decision-making in combat.
Or the economic volatility driven by trade wars over strategic resources like rare earths, where a single political statement can swing markets wildly, disconnected from the underlying facts.
Or the challenge of making sure climate solutions like lithium extraction or early warning systems are actually effective and just for the communities involved.
Exactly. It all comes back to managing uncertainty and risk. Whether it's the minimum change principle in quantum updates trying to preserve information, or investors reacting to political rhetoric to minimize perceived financial risk, or local communities using trusted knowledge to mitigate the physical risk of a GLOF when technology fails.
It feels like the tools we're developing, whether scientific, technological, economic, or diplomatic, are becoming incredibly powerful, incredibly sharp.
Double-edged often. The speed of innovation is just relentless. And our systems for managing the consequences ethically, politically, socially are constantly playing catch-up.
Which leads us, I think, to our final provocative thought for you, the listener, to mull over.
Given everything we've discussed, particularly the integration of AI and advanced tech like the eagle-eye helmet into military capabilities, how does our very definition of peace start to change?
What do you mean?
Well, when the technological capacity for conflict becomes near instantaneous, globally reachable, and increasingly augmented or even automated, what does peace really look like? Is it just the absence of active shooting? Or does the constant potential for rapid tech-driven escalation create a different kind of underlying tension?
That's a heavy question. If the human element, the deliberation, the friction of mobilizing forces is reduced by technology,
What new kinds of diplomatic tools, what new regulatory frameworks do we need to invent to manage that reality? Are our current international institutions and ways of thinking about conflict resolution equipped for a world where warfare itself is being fundamentally reshaped by technology at this pace?
are the political and ethical mechanisms keeping pace with the technological acceleration? That really is the essential question, isn't it? Something to definitely think about.
For enjoying Artificially Informed.
Hit subscribe and share it with a friend.
From the left, the right, and straight from the algorithm.
Thank you.
That's it for today's Artificially Informed.
Nope. Thanks for spending your time with us.
Yeah.
Stay sharp, stay curious. See you next time.